Welcome to a new Harry's Garage video, and today's car is this Jensen FF you see here, a 1969 example of the famous Jensen FF, this four-wheel drive supercar that burst on the scenes in 1968. But this isn't an ordinary Jensen FF, there isn't such a thing really, but this is being brought bang up to date with Jensen International Automotive, just based up the road from me in Banbury. This car has 556 horsepower, LSA supercharged engine in it, and it retains a four-wheel drive system, and it gives it the most crazy amount of performance that you would never guess from its appearance. It just looks like a standard Jensen FF. If you bought one of these new in 1968, 69, actually this car is a 1969 and it was registered in November 69, and it cost its original owner £7,705. Once it's visited Jensen International Automotive and has had all this new tech put into it, it cost the owner a few months ago £332,000, as you see it here. This car has just arrived with the hairpin company, and as soon as it did, I just had to have a go in it. The Jensen Interceptor, or FF, is one of my hero cars from the 70s. But what's it like once it's been brought bang up to date and has all this extra horsepower and this creature comforts in this car? Now, Jensen International Automotive christened this car the FF-R, but what I love about it, it looks just about identical to the FF when it was launched in 1968. This, as I say, is a 69 model. So that front look, that number plates, those lights, that grille, that is all Jensen FF 1969. You come round to the side, yes, the wheels have grown. This has got 17-inch wheels on it rather than 15, but those two gills on it, that's how you distinguished an FF from a regular Interceptor, because it's actually longer. That bonnet line is 4 or 5 inches longer, I can't remember exactly, because they had to fit all the four-wheel drive in. We'll open the bonnet at the moment, you can see the diff and front diff, etc. in it. Come down the sides, they've slightly remodeled the mirrors, but done it very well, you'd hardly tell. Down the side and round the back, this is the same as an FF in 1969. I can't see any changes. I mean, the exhaust are probably new, but they mirror what it left the factory as almost perfectly. And God, what a signature that big rear screen is. Still a very elegant car. I suppose having the Espada, that is a rival of this car, but there was something sort of modern, a bit like the Espada, I suppose. It was against the establishment of Aston Martin, Ferrari, Rolls-Royce even. This was a statement car in its day in 1970. It was bought by the pop stars and company owners, and well, Eric Morecambe, he had one, and I remember seeing one as a kid in a vibrant colour and just left a lasting impression when just seeing this gloriously glamorous car when it was new in 1970. Right, we'll just show you under the bonnet. I'll open that at the same time. Forward hinges. Single wiper as well. We'll get onto that when we're driving the car. It was twin wiper, normal setup. Two big struts hold it up, but you have to put a little thing. I'll pop round the other side. Now, the first thing to say before we have a closer look where the engine is. Here it is, that is the front of the engine, and you will see it is all the way behind the front wheels. That's because you'll see in a moment there's a diff down here. But yeah, supercharged 6.2 litre engine on this. This engine appeared in the Chevrolet Camaro ZL1 and Cadillac CTS-V as well. So a well-proven 6.2 litre engine. Monster torque, beautiful manifolds on it. Supercharger belt, this is the drive up here to this black, this is the supercharger here. Funny thing, it's not actually working overly hard at 556 horsepower, but mighty effective. They are very fit horses, as you'll see in a moment. They are just broken in, they're not lazy horses at all. But what you can see down here, I don't think you can see it in this light, but there's a giant diff here, an enormous drive shaft going to the front wheels here. Because of all that torque, it needs to contain it. They've got a modern radiator in here as well, slanted forward, aluminium rad down there. Cooling was always an issue on Jensen Interceptors and FF. There was this big engine, very tightly packed, but funny enough, in this FF, there's much more space than you normally get around the engine, and actually the LS1 engine is actually quite compact compared to what they were dealing with before, when they had the big Holly carburetors sitting on top and the air cleaner. It always looked very dense, the under bonnet of a Jensen Interceptor or an FF. Right, let's have a quick look around the back. This rear screen is almost what makes Jensen FF unique, or the Interceptor, vast, and it gets such a design statement. It lifts up like a modern hatchback, lovely mechanism on here, reasonable size boot, and you've got a space saver spare here. I love the way they've used the sort of leather belts here, there's a little charger in there. Seats don't fold down, they're far too plush for that. They're beautifully upholstered in the back. So there you go, that's the little look around. What I want to do now, take it outside, take it for a drive. Oh, first thing you hit is the leather seats. It's the softest of leathers. Beautifully trimmed everywhere you look. I like the chrome, the motor liter wheel on it. Reflection of me in the so shiny and polished. I'm not sure that's a good thing or not. You also notice the LED lights. I think all the interior lights have been upgraded. That's the thing with this, is this mix of classic Jensen, but then all brought up to date. And the instruments identical, but I can see there's an LCD readout for miles in this one, rather than, you know, the analog sort of clocks whirling round. But I've still got all the rocker switches. I love the window switches. I've got a modern take of a classic radio with the navigation if you want it, oil, temperature, all the ventilation. But then there's some oddities under here. I've got heated seats, no less, and an electric handbrake down here, and electric mirrors as well. So all those things we've just take for granted now, but were not around in 1969 when this car first came out. Automatic gearbox. I'm fascinated what that emblem is on the gearbox. I think it's from Cadillac, the GTS V gearbox, so the 6-speed gearbox. The four-wheel drivetrain in this is unique basically to this Jensen. I mean, it's not unique because it's within the GM portfolio, but it's not connected to anything to do with the FF original version. So this is very much GM drivetrain all the way through, and all the better for it really in today's day and age. And to take this amount of grunt, you need a really good drivetrain within it. Under here is another surprise. You think it's this very big transmission tunnel. Under here I've got a little traction control. So I've got 11 settings for traction control. I'm on 5 at the moment, so I'm in the middle between wet and dry. Other slight oddity with the Jensen FF is the seat here. I have a wider seat than the passenger has, because the tunnel, I can see the tunnel is actually wider on the passenger side, and that shrinks the passenger seat slightly just to get all the mechanicals in. But yeah, it's a really nice place to be, and just the leather, and look at the size of these enormous sun visors. But there's a lot of glass in here, but there's also a very modern air conditioning unit in here. So right, I'm hesitating starting this car up because there's a little mouse or something in here that squeals and makes strange noises. It's not going to do it now for the camera. So yeah, start it up. You instantly, no mistaking, you have a very angry V8 supercharged. You're not really picking up on the supercharged. No, you're not really. Very subtle, the supercharger, but little pops and bangs from the rear. Yeah, for a very different drive experience from what was standard Jensen FF back in 1969. Little stretch to do the seat belts, unfortunately, but that's always the way with two-seater coupes of this age. Those electronic ones that hand you the seat belt, well, that's a very modern invention. So right, let's just see what this car is all about. Very definitely V8. Light steering. Yeah, I need to get some temperature into this thing. I've sort of warmed up, but I know I'm not fully warm yet. So I'm going to just head out of here on some better roads, and he'll join me a little later. Right, it's my first chance to give a little bit of exercise. Right. Yes. As I said, the 566 horsepower, they're very fit horses. It's all a bit. There's an aggression there that I don't ever remember from Jensen FF or Interceptors I've driven. They've always, before driving this, they've always been that sort of heavy, sort of, I wouldn't say lumbersome, but they needed all their 6.75 or 7 litre engines, and they had quite a slippy sort of auto gearbox, and you wafted, you added power, cruised a bit, add a bit more power. There wasn't quite the connection with this thing. Every prod unleashes ridiculous torrent of horsepower. I'll watch my speed in this thing. 2000 RPM, right? Yeah, 60 is 2000 RPM, but it will hold a gear, but you have to be ever so gentle with the throttle to get it to hold a gear. My goodness, this is going to be quite something. Quite expect it to light up the tyres on traction control 5 and 4-wheel drive just coming out of there. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Reading the blurb on this car from Jensen International Automotive, they want you to think this is an everyday car now. They've tried to create this classic from the past that you can use every day, and it's actually what the original owner of this car wanted it when he ordered it. He really enjoyed speccing it up and things, and then it arrived. And he did start to use it every day, and actually that's why it's on well, M&S tyres, all season tyres, or they're very definitely on the winter side rather than what I would term all season. They do look more of a winter tyre than not. Right, that little strange mouse that's sort of squealing and making funny noises under the dash is back. I haven't quite worked it out, but it's something to do with the air conditioning system. So apologies if you can hear it on there. Ride as well, it's relatively firm. It's not firm like a modern day, we've got use of M-Power, etc., and especially Audi RS. But from where this car was new in 1970, this would be described as firm. I looked underneath, and it's all, it shocks, Spax shocks on this with coilovers, rather than any leaf spring nonsense or anything like that going on. Double wishbone at the front, trailing arm at the rear. I just, love the fact that I'm in a Jensen Interceptor, okay, an FF. View out, as you'd imagine from this car, all glass. Wonderful view out. Clear instruments, although I've got a petrol gauge sort of tucked under here. I like the way they've given that special mention. There's something about a Jensen Interceptor back in the day, that was the most important gauge almost you had, because boy did it like to be fed. Just slightly annoying, the wheel does cover the speedo, quite a critical point from, well, I can't see 30 to 100 miles an hour. Right, here we go. 30 miles an hour. I can't tell you what speed we got to up that. It's like all hell lets loose. No wheel spin, no nothing. It just accelerates. Just that monster power gets to the ground and you're off. Forget about the curb weight, 1800-ish kilos. This has more than enough grunt to make a mockery of it. Jensen claimed 3.7 to 60, but what happens after 60 is almost the shock with this car. I was looking at the speed of Camaro ZL1 just to see what acceleration that had, and that was 3.8 to 60, 8.7 to 100 miles an hour.
that is the sort of performance that is now in this Jensen FF, this sort of thing that used to have a sort of very sort of lazy 3-speed gearbox, used to get up to speed, but oh no, not this one, not the supercharged one, the FF-R. It's a very different character than I remember in previous Jensens. Let's just see what happens down here. I'm quite tempted to put this into manual mode because it is so, oh god. Yeah, I'm gonna put it over to manual just to calm things down. It's almost too aggressive. It's like the auto gearbox is always in sport. Yeah, that feels a little better just with some manual control over the gears. Oh my goodness, it's a very good job this thing is 4-wheel drive. I don't see how a 2-wheel drive Jensen with the supercharger, there's any way you could deploy this amount of torque, let alone the horsepower at the top end. Suspension travel, yeah, it's controlled. I can feel it hasn't got a huge amount of suspension travel on these bumps, but it's pretty comfy down here. As I say, I use this road because it's a rubbish bit of road, and I'm not picking up on it. I'm also not picking up any tram lining. Feels dead straight. One surprise is actually the tyres on this. They're relatively narrow. 235 50 17s all the way around. 235s to control 550 something horsepower. That is a minimal amount of tyre. I suppose it adds to the ride quality. I am now following Jaguar XJ from the same period, T, so 78, so quite a lot more modern actually, 4.2. A nice sight. He's having a much more relaxing journey than perhaps I am in here, but I quite like the V8-ness of this car. Right, right through my compression. Just swallowed it. I can sort of feel the forces of this car. Go up in here. Through there. Yeah, it's not a huge amount of connection with the front. I don't think the winter tyres are doing it many favours on that. But I am surprised at the body control. I thought it'd be a little bit looser than this. It's all adjustable on a car like this. You can check the damper rates wherever you want them, but yeah, apart from the slight lack of suspension travel, suspension is better than I expected. So, summarising this mad car, what are my dislikes with it? I suppose it's overly aggressive nature. I don't mind the overly aggressive nature when I feel in that mood, but to drive home from late one night from a party and you just want a nice relaxing drive home, I'm not sure if this car can do it. I want a sort of quiet mode button somewhere to calm the gearbox and the engine and the throttle response down. Other things, I've driven this car in the rain, and it has a single wiper which they've updated from a regular two wiper blade system, which it works much better. If you have a single blade, I notice it really as a passenger, it doesn't clear your screen, so I'm not quite sure why they've done that. I suppose the price as a dislike, £322,000 is a lot, but I can see where it's all gone. The donor car is getting more expensive as the years tick by. Jensens were available at 10,000, they're now 40,000 plus really. So yeah, I can understand that. Right, it was just going into my favourite corners. Let's just change down again. And we see what it's around here. Yeah, nimble. Oh, and the brakes are quite soft into the around there. Oh, use the horsepower on the way out. Gets the move on. You do need all the brakes though. I can feel the servo working quite hard, but I'm not running out of brakes. My god, what a car this is. Right, what about the lights? Looks. I love the looks. I always have loved the looks of the Interceptor and the FF. This has almost enhanced it. That slightly bigger wheels, I think they've done a tremendous job with that wheel design on it, and the way they've kept the outside completely original on this car. You'd never guess, and it's all the better for it. And the interior, I love the feel in here. I love the use of leather. Little bit of wind noise from there, but apart from that, this is a glorious place to sit. It's almost they've enhanced the original, which is hard to do, but this one is an exceptional example of a Jensen FF. So in conclusion, what gets me about this car is the Jensen Interceptor always was a cool car, and if anything, this is even cooler. Relying on that engine drivetrain from GM means it's a fit and forget. It's a crazy amount of horsepower in this car. You don't have to tap into it to enjoy this car. You can just look at it and you have the most wonderfully restored Jensen FF, and yet you've got this monstrous amount of power, and you can terrify yourself or try and just relax and drive it gently in the knowledge that it's never really going to break. This drivetrain needs hundreds of thousands of miles. It will keep cool. It's got perfect air conditioning. It's still got a bit of a drink problem, but it's probably better than what it was. So they've actually almost enhanced the cool factor. All you get to enjoy is your Jensen Interceptor. And I like that we're doing these sort of cars now. They're designs that will never go out of fashion on the exterior. It's before design got compromised with all the safety legislation, so we just get to enjoy it, and it's street theatre, whether you're going to use it every day or not. So yeah, really enjoyed my time. It's an awful lot of money. This car is actually available from Hairpin. I think it's at 225,000, so £100,000 off what it cost its original owner to own. Just, I think there are 2 or 3 of these Jensen FF-Rs in existence now. Super rare, super enjoyable car. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, well, keep watching, keep subscribing. More videos coming along very soon.